This week, continuing our countdown to this summer's MCU film Fantastic Four First Steps, we discuss Fantastic Four Rise of the Silver Surfer from 2007. And once again, I'm joined by Kumar and Jordan of the Comic Book Movie Oblivion podcast. First, I'd like to thank our patrons for helping to keep the show going. You can pitch in by pledging at least $2 a month at patreon.com/deconcomics. This is Tim.
This is Kumar.
This is Jordan.
And this is Deconstructing Comics and Comic Book Movie Oblivion. Welcome to Deconstructing Comics. This is Tim in Tokyo. Now let's get right to the discussion of Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
So this came out in 2007, 2 years after the previous one. This one is 91 minutes long. I thought I was like, is that wrong? Like, no, it's 100% 90 minutes. Last one, we were making fun of it for being 106 minutes long. This one was 91 minutes. Felt like 3 hours. Starts with a planetoid out in space breaking up, and then something shoots out of it.
Yeah, so the first time
I'm sorry, Tim, go ahead.
The first time I watched it, I didn't understand what that scene was, and the second time I watched it, like, all this smoke is Galactus, and he's eating the planet, and for some reason that's causing the planet to blow up. Like, you'd have to put energy in to make it blow up, right? But he's sucking energy out of it, and it's blowing up. And then a streak comes off of the planet, and we know later that's Silver Surfer.
I also watched this twice, and on second viewing, I realized that we're actually seeing it from Galactus's POV.
Oh.
So we can see his tendrils coming down from right screen, left screen, and then coming back up again after he's finished destroying the planet. So we've got the God's eye view almost of the destruction of a planet, which is an interesting choice. I suppose because they want to keep the very underwhelming reveal that Galactus is a big cloud until later in the movie.
I guess.
Yeah. I have three things I want to mention at this point.
Okay.
One, of the four movies that have been released at this point, this is the only one that's not called Fantastic Four. Right?
Yeah, what is it called, actually? Is it called Rise of the Silver Surfer?
Yeah, Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer. Okay. So not just Fantastic Four.
Oh, I see what you mean, yes.
But the other ones are just called The Fantastic Four or Fantastic Four.
Yes, but what a weird name for a movie, Rise of the Silver Surfer.
Oh, to me it just screams late noughties, early new teens. Everything was Rise of something.
Oh, well, it should have been called Silver Surfer Resurrection if you really wanted it to be like...
I hate the title Rise of something or other.
I hate it too.
Where is he rising to?
Exactly.
Where is he rising from?
Yeah, it's not the best title. A second thing, why is the Fantastic Four theme Roll Out the Barrel? Da, 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 da. I'm thinking, roll out the barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. And the other thing is, after that first Galactus scene we just talked about, we see, Constantine film, Bernd Eichinger
yes, I noticed
again.
That too. So he's making money.
Yep,
he did the right thing, making that cheapo movie in the 90s.
And he just had the rights to the FF and Silver Surfer, right? And so that's who we got in this movie.
Yeah.
Yes, and not Nick Fury.
Yeah.
And not Galactus, apparently. They're using the name, but not the appearance.
Yes, we'll talk about all that stuff, too. Okay, so we're on Earth. It's like a Japanese bay, and
it's
Silver Surfer
Bay.
Yeah, flies over, and the bay freezes. And then he flies over like cities, and it like knocks out electricity and stuff,
and causes snow on the pyramids and the Sphinx.
Yes, and it's not consistent. Like it's not ice everywhere or electricity.
Yeah, Los
everywhere.
Angeles, it just puts the lights out. There's no snow. So okay.
There's no snow in L.A. No.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Well, we'll talk about this. But it's very vague.
Very
what
patchy
the
effects that are happening. I think they tried to write.
Reed later explains that these weather effects are not even the Silver Surfer's powers.
Okay.
It's a side effect of when he uses his powers.
Oh. Okay, but his power at this time is flying around, and that's consistent. So it should have a consistent effect, I would imagine.
I agree, but it doesn't.
Okay.
We just need a weird phenomenon in order to capture the interest of the four,
Yes.
I suppose, at this point.
Yeah, and it's happening around the world, like, yeah, as we said, Egypt, Japan, etc., LA. Okay, meanwhile, the Fantastic Four their wedding is upcoming. They're waiting to get on a plane to go somewhere. They are flying coach. They are famous.
They get bumped
celebrities.
down to coach.
Yes.
Who's
right? That's right.
Fantastic Four?
Yeah.
Well,
They go to Reed Richards, they say, "Oh, sorry, the flight's been overbooked. You're going to have to go."
Yeah, the airline wants to have a comedy scene. So
is this pre-Instagram? Like that? Wouldn't the Fantastic Four complain on Instagram about how they got treated by the airline? I think
this is about MySpace era, maybe early Facebook.
Reed Richards has an incredibly advanced smartphone.
Yes. Oh, yes, that's right.
So
he calls it a PDA. This is the
BlackBerry?
Popular term back then. Yeah, I think it probably is a BlackBerry or something.
It's unbelievably advanced, but it looks exactly like a modern smartphone because it has a touch screen.
Yes.
Whereas, like a contemporaneous device would be like a BlackBerry.
Yeah,
with
it's true. I guess what we see of it, it's not really BlackBerry shaped. But
no, it looks exactly like a smartphone.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the film treats it as an astonishing. And it even rings during his wedding
and he's addicted to it. He says he's addicted to it.
It's hilariously prophetic, actually.
Yes. Okay, so they're flying coach. This moment we get some stupid power effects, like Reed stretching his arm to put his bag in the overhead compartment across the aisle.
That'd be convenient.
What a waste!
And it was immoral too, because some poor woman was trying to put her bag.
Yeah.
Where's she going to put her bag now?
Yeah. What an absolute waste of time all this stuff was.
I'm glad that you hate that.
And Johnny is in there and he's like, I don't fly coach. And he walks off the plane and flies beside it. Did they just let people on and off planes like that in 2007? Post 9/11? I don't think
after
so.
9/11, no. He wouldn't even be able to go in the boarding area.
Yeah, exactly. And yet, and this flies in the. We could say, oh, he's the Fantastic Four, so he gets special treatment. Except that flies in the face of the fact that the Fantastic Four were asked to fly coach.
Yeah.
They clearly don't get special treatment.
They are
none of it makes sense.
World famous. I don't understand
ruined
this.
In this film about rock monsters and flying flame men. It doesn't make sense when they're on the airplane.
Yeah. Yes. They get back home. Sue is upset that Reed is working on stuff instead of thinking about their upcoming wedding.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the wedding has been canceled several times because we assume other crises have happened and they had to keep pushing it back.
Here's a problem I have. How long has it been since the events of the last movie? And what have they been up to? The wedding's been postponed 4 times.
It's unclear.
I would have liked, like one of those things where you have newspapers flying around in the credits or something that tells us what the Fantastic Four have been up to.
Yeah, we are supposed to assume that they've been solving world problems with their powers in various crises in various ways.
We do find out that Reed Richards did testify before Congress about an unsafe weapons program
later on. Yeah. So also we learn in this scene that Sue now has a localizing invisibility field. Like she can make something else invisible. Like she looks at his PDA and she makes it invisible.
Mm-hmm. Please call it a smartphone.
Her smartphone.
Yes, yeah.
Weird.
Well, what year was the iPhone introduced? I was going to look that up. Was that 07, 08?
Maybe.
I'm sure it was around then. But before, when the film was around then,
so she has projection invisibility, and she also has localizing. Later on, she has a zit that she makes go invisible on her head. Just that.
You know what? I've just realized. Later on, she makes a wall invisible so that she can look through it to watch the Silver Surfer. When I saw that, I thought, "What the hell is this? Does she have X-ray vision now?"
Yeah. I had the same thing.
You're right. She made the wall invisible, so
and was
she could
hoping nobody would turn
it.
around to see them.
Yeah, exactly. That's really dangerous. If someone had turned around, they would have been able to see her right through the wall. It's mad. Also, she's also gained the power of wearing a very obvious wig.
Yeah, I read that the bleaching damaged her hair for the first movie.
Geez.
So for the second one, she's wearing a wig. On the iPhone, it was introduced at Macworld Expo January 9th, 2007. So while this movie was in the works.
Okay. I'm surprised they didn't try to get one in here, considering the amount of product placement.
Well, if it came out, it would have been in production before it came out, probably.
We get a special effect of Reed's floppy thumbs when he's typing into the smartphone. Now he's been working on the Fantastic Car. It's under a sheet, so we don't get to see it. But Johnny comes in. Johnny starts talking to him. I was watching. We're about 5-10 minutes into the movie at this stage. I was watching with Ashwin. Ashwin turned to me and he said, "This is boring." And then the next line that Johnny said was, "This is boring." I remember last week I was talking about how Reed's powers were gross, and then as soon as I said that, Johnny said, "That's gross." So,
yeah, that's right.
Johnny speaks for the audience, I think.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, they start receiving reports of the strange weather occurrences.
Yeah.
And we get a scene where they mention that the water has frozen in Suruga Bay in Japan. The newsreader says something hilarious, which is that it's theorized that it might be caused by underwater volcanic activity, but there have been no reports of that kind of activity in that area ever.
Yeah.
Now,
how would heat cause water to freeze?
Yeah. First of all, no, that wouldn't exactly, Tim. But second of all, two old Japan hands like yourselves will know that tectonic activity in Japan is constant. And there are reports of earthquakes in Suruga Bay going back 1,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
The most recent was last August. Also, the bay itself was formed by, quote, underwater volcanoes. So that's a really, really dumb line to make it into the movie.
Yes.
Do your research, people. Anyway, they ignore this, and Johnny really, really wants Reed to go on a bachelor
party. Yeah.
A bachelor party, a stud party. Yeah.
That was the whole point of that scene. That's right.
Yeah, and Reed doesn't want to because he wants to work on his stuff, but Johnny pushes him into it, saying that Sue wants him to think about the wedding. So, okay, I'll have a bachelor party.
He blackmails him. He says, "I'll dob you into Sue unless that you're investigating these occurrences, unless you come on the bachelor party." And Reed just sort of immediately caves and says, "Yep, okay, bachelor party sounds fun. Let's do it."
Yeah, and this party is like 90% populated by very attractive women. And there are a few guys there, but it's mostly babes. And so Johnny did the guest list, but
I have a lot of things to say about the party when we get to it.
Yeah, me too.
I think we're there.
We're here, right? Pretty much.
No, because Silver Surfer is flying over Latveria, and we are almost there. There's a 1-second scene where Silver Surfer flies over Latveria, and then Dr. Doom, who's still in that thing, wakes up. His eyes open. Mm-hmm. So I guess
he's in the city of Hassenstad, which is normally Doomstad in the comics, but I guess they thought Doomstad was too crazy.
Okay.
or I think actually he's not the ruler of Latveria.
Yeah, they've never said in these movies that he's a ruler.
Then why is he being treated this way?
Why was he collected and
why is
sent
he being
back to
treated
Latveria?
like a king if he's not a king?
Yeah,
that is weird.
It's they're trying to have it both ways
well,
there
I don't think
too.
No one ever really treats him like a king. I don't think we never even really see Latveria.
Then why was he shipped back to Latveria? Why is that guy working on him and getting the mask off him and all that stuff?
Mm-hmm.
If he's not,
it doesn't quite make sense. Yeah.
No.
So now we're at the party.
Johnny was told specifically by Reed, no exotic dances, which is PG-13 code for strippers.
Yeah.
And there are no strippers at the party.
But there are women who were not wearing very much. So meanwhile, back at the Baxter Building, General Hager shows up. Andre Brower. So I found out. So Andre Brower supposedly turned down an ER supporting role to do this movie because he was a longtime fan of FF Comics.
Oh, okay.
I didn't hear that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And he's basically playing Captain Holt.
He's a welcome presence in this movie.
Yeah,
he's fine.
Yeah, I was happy to see him here some years before Brooklyn Nine-Nine starts.
Yeah.
But he's playing the same basic character, isn't he? It's great.
It's pretty close. Just not without the comedy elements, but yeah. But yeah, he was originally going to be Nick Fury. They were going to have Nick Fury playing that role, but as we already said. But okay.
They should have got Hasselhoff. What a crossover that would have been.
You're going to have to explain that. What's the Hasselhoff connection? Kumar, just a quick digression.
Hasselhoff was in a TV movie version of Nick Fury in the 90s.
Okay.
Yeah.
97, I think. Mm-hmm. There was a TV movie version of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. starring David Hasselhoff.
Did he have an eye patch?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So cool.
Yeah. Okay, so at this bachelor party, this is where we get the first Kevin Smith joke. So there's 3 jokes from Mallrats in this movie.
Oh, great.
I'm not sure if they're exact quotes, but basically, there's a scene in Mallrats where the main character, or one of the main characters, meets Stan Lee. Stan Lee is in Mallrats.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And he immediately starts asking him about the genitals of all the Marvel characters. Like, what about the Thing's thing? Is it made of, or the torches? What about Mr. Fantastic's thing? Can it, stretch? So here we get all these jokes. So Mr. Fantastic is showing his stretchy fingers, and these women are, making goo-goo eyes.
Oh, you're so cute. Yeah.
Yeah.
He makes his fingers expand, and they look incredibly thrilled.
Yeah.
I sent Kumar a meme of it today, actually. And then the best line in the movie happens. One of the girls says to him, "Wow, you're really, really smart." And he replies, "Thanks, Candy. That means a lot to me."
No, I have a different favorite line in this movie.
I just love that line so much.
Yes.
Anyway, sorry.
So they convince him to dance, and we get this stupid... I hate the way they use the powers in this movies. Like when he's grabbing the toilet roll in the last movie, and the luggage compartment earlier. So now we get him using his stretching on the dance floor, and it's just so stupid. And
I remember this is the only thing... I watched this movie... Oh, God, probably 15 years ago. Not at the cinemas, but on DVD, hungover one morning. And then this is the only thing I remember about it, this terrible dance scene where the girl's telling him to loosen up, and he's just doing these really lame-looking special effects. He goes right up to the ceiling. He randomly stretches out his arm, one arm, the other arm. He kicks his leg out. Yeah. And then he enfolds them in his arms. He shoots his arms out and rolls them up in them, and it looks terrible.
Yeah.
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 Terrible.
Well, I think, Kumar, these scenes that you don't like, I think, they're trying to appeal to the non-comics audience, right? Just like, how would you use these powers if you had them? You would reach out the door and get the toilet paper that's not in the bathroom.
Yes.
Gee, I wish I had Mr. Fantastic.
But it's to me, it's crazy that this is a 90-minute movie and we're spending time on these things, these kinds of things. We couldn't add half hour of the more important stuff or something,
Or action where they're using their powers to actually solve to fight somebody. Yeah.
Yeah. So meanwhile,
you notice his clothes are stretching. You remember we had a big discussion about stretchy clothes,
unstable molecules.
Yeah.
I guess it's been long enough that he can build regular clothes out of unstable molecules.
But he hasn't for the other members of the team, because when they switch powers later in the movie, clothes catch on fire, all that kind of stuff, and they're not protected. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
No,
Johnny complains, at that wedding scene where he has to flame on while he's wearing that designer suit.
Well, that's
his Armani tux or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's Dolce maybe, but that's specifically that suit because he bought it for the wedding. It's not.
This is the big issues. These are the important issues.
Yeah. Okay,
when
what I want to talk about
clothes
now
unstable molecules, and when aren't they? The audience wants to know.
Okay, Sue arrives at this nightclub.
with General Hager. Mm-hmm.
She is jealous of Reed dancing with these girls. Okay, this drove me crazy. He is at his bachelor party. She knows he's at his bachelor party.
Right.
She is smart and beautiful. They're dumb and beautiful. Why is she jealous? What is she worried about? What is she possibly worried about?
She's just not impressed. I didn't get so much that she was jealous.
Yeah, this is the bachelor party for marrying her, Also, then, a couple scenes later, she's suddenly fine with it.
She's cool
Exactly.
with it.
Exactly.
I think she's just unimpressed, right? It's not a thing you like to see your partner doing that, I guess. It was supposed to be private, but it wasn't private, and we're meant to cringe on behalf of Mr. Fantastic. I agree, it doesn't really work. And also, it's even more embarrassing, I guess, that the general's there. He's
no.
Captain Holt's there, and he's passing judgment on you for dancing with the bimbos.
But the general takes them back into the kitchen to explain what the problem is. What nightclub has a kitchen like this?
I don't know.
Yeah, they're making full course meals back there.
Exactly. Oh yeah, this is a huge full service kitchen in a nightclub, which doesn't serve food as far as I can tell. There's no tables there. Anyway, so so now they find out these craters are being left around the planet, and they could possibly track the Silver Surfer if Reed builds this special sensor. But he doesn't want to do it. He turns down the job of building sensor because he's got the upcoming wedding.
He's getting married in a couple of days, which is fair enough. I mean, we're supposed to... I know that some people have had a problem with this. Like, what is Reed smoking? He needs to save the Earth, not get married. But I think it's fair to point out, at this point, the Earth isn't threatened.
Right. Mm-hmm.
It's just some odd weather events.
I agree.
And a couple of 200-foot holes in uninhabited areas. It feels like something the government can handle. You don't really need Reed Richards.
Right, yeah, they don't know the threat yet.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like Reed says, you know, why don't you talk to so-and-so at Brown, at such and such university.
Recommends another scientist. Yeah.
You've done good. I'm cool with it. Go back to partying with the ladies.
I wanted to talk about General Hager's assistant.
Yes.
She is... Well, her name, anyway, is the name of a Marvel character, Frankie Ray.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Frankie Ray was, I found, created by Roy Thomas and George Perez in 1975. First appeared in Fantastic Four 164. She dated Johnny off and on.
Interesting.
So she was an actor. Okay. Cool.
And then in Fantastic Four 244, John Byrne had her become a hero called Nova. Which is not the Richard Rider Nova from the 70s. See, two different Marvel characters with the same name, and neither of them were dead at that point. But yeah, she well, I guess it's complicated, but she ends up with these kind of flame-ish powers. Yeah. And she becomes a herald of Galactus.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah,
everybody becomes a herald of Galactus after a while.
Yeah,
any character, everyone gets superpowers at some point. Right over.
Okay, well, this explains so much to me, Tim, because Johnny immediately gets the hots for this woman.
Mm-hmm.
It's not clear why. Maybe because she's unattainable. She thinks he's a disgusting pig. She's not interested in him.
Yeah,
she has no interest in him.
Mr. Storm. We're heading to intercept the Surfer in 10 minutes, with or without you.
Were you just waiting outside the bathroom to try and catch me in a towel?
But he pursues her the whole movie. I could not understand why that makes sense. In fact, in the final scene, it seems like she's with him with no explanation. She never warmed up to him, so I'm not sure why.
Yeah, there's no scene of her like, oh, Johnny, actually, I kind of like you, so let's
seems like a
date.
scene that was cut, bizarrely.
Yeah,
but it's because it's because they got together in the comics.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
That makes.
Yeah, but then what Johnny does at the wedding is to prevent her from catching the bouquet. So, like, does he like her? Apparently, he doesn't like her that much.
He's just scared of commitment.
Yes,
I mean that was funny because the film was kind of about he sort of had an arc, barely an arc, more of a bump, but he was sort of worried about being alone.
Yeah.
And it's a funny little coda, I suppose, that he's not that worried about being alone because he's together with Captain Frankie, whatever her name is, and he still scorches the bouquet. Like, he's not quite ready for that level of
right.
Well,
and he knows all those women at the nightclub too, so he's got them to date also.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we get Doctor Doom's mask being like burned
chiseled
off
his face.
chiseled off by some.
Why did he want to take it off for? He only just got it on.
I'm not sure, but this is very much like the Joker scene in Batman '89, where once the mask comes off, this guy beats up the assistant.
Yeah, I mean, he has to, then slug the guy who just helped him out.
Yeah,
which he does. Or like Jigsaw in the Punisher movie.
Yeah.
That we watched. That movie is fantastic. Incidentally, Tim, I don't know if you've seen it, Punisher Warzone.
I've heard it's hilarious.
It is
fantastic. So much better than this movie. Anyway, yeah.
So
this might be a good point to mention that something that I forgot last week. So Julian McMahon is playing Victor Von Doom here, but he wasn't the first person cast as Doctor Doom.
Okay.
In Fantastic Four 2005. That was no bullshit. Nicolas Cage.
No way.
Yes way.
Wow.
And then he pulled out for some reason.
Okay.
But we could have had Nicolas Cage.
Wow, that would have been something else. I got to talk about him and how boring I found him last movie later on once he gets his big scene coming up. Anyway, back at the Baxter Building, Reed is secretly building this sensor for the satellite.
Yep, when he should be focusing on the wedding, but he can't help himself.
Yeah. Now the wedding is happening. Now we get the second Kevin Smith joke. So Johnny shows up with a girl, I think, in this scene.
It's one of the girls from the club, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And people say, what's it's like dating him? And she says, you need a lot of aloe oil or something like that.
Yeah, fireproof negligee and a lot of aloe.
So what's it take to date the Human Torch?
Fireproof lingerie and a lot of aloe.
Yes. Okay. That's another Mallrats
since
joke,
you mentioned it, the 2005 film also had a dick joke because they're interviewing Johnny and they ask him, is it true that he can stretch any part of his anatomy?
Yes, that's right.
And he replies, I always found him a little limp or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, do you get it?
Yeah.
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
So now the wedding is happening on the rooftop. Stan Lee shows up as Stan Lee. I think it's maybe the only time he plays. Oh, no. He plays himself in Captain Marvel. He's reading the Mallrats script on a bus. In the 90s. That one was set in the 90s, right?
Right.
So he was prepping for Mallrats in that movie.
Oh, what a can of worms that is.
Yeah.
Okay. So now he's played two roles now on the... So last week he was...
Yes, two different roles. Yeah, that's right.
Pop him on the list then.
Wait a second. Is this his third? So then is his third after Teen Titans?
This is only his...
Fourth?
Oh my god, no, you're right. It is his third.
Three.
Stan Lee, Comic Book Movie Oblivion All-Star. Congrats, Stan.
All right. So, okay, the wedding is... Okay, now we finally get to Alicia. Kerry Washington, again, is very charming. Again, very welcome presence in this movie.
Yeah, she's great.
She, to my mind, has the best line in the movie where...
What, better than thanks, Candy? That means a lot to me.
Yes, absolutely, because my favorite line, the one line I really laughed at was when Johnny seems to be jealous of her relationship with that relationship. And she accuses him, I think you're jealous. And he says, have you seen the women I date? And she says, no.
Because she can't see anything, yeah.
Yes. And I did laugh at that. But anyway.
That is funny.
Reed's still building this thing moments before the wedding.
Wait, he's supposed to be waiting at the altar, and he's still working on the machine.
Yeah, so he went ahead and secretly worked on it anyway after the scene where he said he wasn't going to do it.
Yes. Yeah, which kind of undercuts the sincerity of that scene.
Yeah, and he didn't even tell Sue that, because he didn't want her to worry, he says later.
Yeah. The wedding starts to happen. The priest is Brian Posehn, by the way, who's a real nerd. He's a D&D metalhead guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he has any comic credits other than this one.
I checked. He doesn't. He doesn't, unfortunately, which is surprising.
Nope. He and Jerry Duggan wrote Deadpool for 3 years.
They did write Deadpool. That's right. But they haven't been any acting. But yeah, he's a super nerd. Yeah. That's right. I did know that he wrote Deadpool. And okay, but then of course the sensor starts beeping. And
it's like his phone's going off. It's great. Yeah.
And Silver Surfer shows up, and all some of the electronics short out. Some things are working. Like the airplane, the helicopter propeller is still spinning, but like the controls.
I guess the
are
guidance
out.
stops working or something.
They claim they've lost power, and they, of course, land right on the site of the wedding and blow all the chairs around. And
there's actually a cool moment here where Sue, in her wedding dress, like uses a force field to stop the.
It is cool.
The helicopter. I like that bit. It's quite the opposite of Annual number 3, where she just hung out in the Baxter building, waiting for Reed to get back.
Frightens of baboons. But Reed also has a line where he says, "It's too late."
Right.
We lost power. We're going down. We're going down.
It's too late.
And I was watching that and I thought, what too late for what? Too late. Yeah, because the surfers arrived, so it's too late.
Yeah.
But what's too late? You're too late to get married?
Too late to catch the surfer before he arrives, I think. I think the detection was too late.
Yeah, it's not clear.
It's just like a suitably ominous line, but that actually didn't seem to have any context in the scene.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yes, especially because we don't know it's too late until later, much later. So Johnny flies off after this silver being that's appeared. They have a chase. Silver Surfer displays some powers that are not in the comic. Like he can kind of like phase through the board and stuff like that. How did we feel about this?
I don't have a problem with the Surfer having new powers. I have a problem with the Surfer having a completely vague power set. It's never clear what the Surfer can do.
Yeah.
In this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He has healing powers, he has shooty powers, he has weather powers, he has phasing powers. Yeah. It's just all over the place. There's nothing I hate more than a sloppy power set.
Yeah.
I want precision. Give me precision. And even his weather effects, as I said earlier, are not even his powers. They're the side effects of him just randomly being the Surfer.
Yeah, he's not saying, now I want snow to fall in Egypt.
It's
just accidentally happening.
Yeah, I think that the problem I had was that it looked too much like the T-1000. And that's not Fantastic Four's fault. I mean, Fantastic Four came first. Silver Surfer came first. But those visuals have been done, and to have him melt through things, especially.
Oh, right, because there's some liquid metal effects.
There's
when
some
he's standing on the board.
Yeah,
it's not egregious.
No,
I suppose now's a good time. I like the way the Surfer looks.
I do, but I think the CG. As I said, it's my second favorite visual of any Marvel character. It looks good on screen, but like the lip movements are really obviously CG. Like, it doesn't look like the lips don't match. Mm-hmm. The CG is cheap. It's not good in this movie.
It's 2007, yeah.
Yeah.
Even for 2007, they just didn't have the money. I mean, it's always a question of how much money you're going to pour into it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll talk about the money later.
Okay.
But we get two surfers. I suppose we get the one where he's on his board because we find out he draws his power from the board.
Yes,
except from his tummy television power.
Yeah.
And when he's on the board, he's the T-1000.
Yes.
So he's very shiny, and you can even see the people talking to him reflected in his silvery body. Then when he's away from the board, he is more kind of he's gunmetal.
Metal
gray,
color, not shiny.
A dull gray.
Yeah. And actually, the lip movements look better when he's gunmetal gray.
I can explain that. That's because he's mostly not CG.
Right.
Because he's Doug Jones in a suit.
Right.
Speaking of Doug Jones, I think this brings him up to 5 appearances on our podcast team. He's a prolific dude in comic book movies.
Yeah. But did they do motion capture? Because it doesn't look like it.
Yes, they did.
Okay.
So Doug spent a lot of time on this movie, like often up in a harness and being filmed and doing mocap, or not necessarily mocap, but providing visuals. Sorry, not mocap. They filmed him, and then used that footage to build the Surfer, but not specifically with mocap. He's not wearing a mocap suit.
Yeah,
he's up
this
there.
Is the problem. Yeah, because it doesn't look like a person. It doesn't look like natural movements. It looks like a CGI.
No. He just provided kind of mime-esque.
Yeah,
he did miming kind of movements, and they use those movements to build You're right. But I kind of really like how he looks in both kind of like incarnations or iterations.
Yeah.
Especially when he's Doug Jones in a suit. He's got these really creepy eyes.
Yeah, it looks really good.
I really love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's very cool. You're right. The Silver Surfer is a cool image, and I think they do it justice by 2007 standards. I kind of feel.
Okay. So basically, he grabs Johnny by the throat and flies him up out of the atmosphere, so his fire goes out.
Yep.
And
then drops him
into the desert. And while he's up in space, he summons Galactus.
Yeah.
He just kind of speaks into the sky. He says, "I found a planet."
Your herald
he can get better
you.
reception up there.
Yes.
He gets 4 bars on his phone.
He's already been drilling holes and stuff, though. What?
Yeah, what were the holes for? I never understood that.
I noticed
teeth into
in the Galactus scene later, you see his smoke going into the hole in London. I think
it's like that in the start
okay.
too.
He puts his smoke into all the holes.
Tendrils go into the holes and suck out the
energy. But yeah, I was surprised there was no dialogue about that. You just have to pay attention on that scene.
I feel like that's another cut scene that they thought, we don't need this scene, maybe.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Nothing about cut scenes online this time around, unlike last week.
Okay. By the way, I don't know. Oh, yeah, he's voiced by Lawrence Fishburne.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's right. Much to Doug Jones's consternation.
Yeah.
Because Doug Jones recorded all his dialogue.
Oh.
Both in the scenes where he appeared with the actors, and then later in ADR, twice.
So we have almost a Hellboy situation.
It is exactly a Hellboy situation. And if you'll permit me a small digression.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast called Imaginary Worlds that featured Doug Jones on it, and he mentioned that he now, in his contract, has a clause that he cannot be dubbed over in English.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I guess originally Fishburne was going to voice Galactus, and then they decided Galactus wouldn't talk, so they switched him over to Surfer.
That's interesting, and that makes a kind of sense, because I read that they hired Fishburne because they wanted more names.
Yeah.
And Fishburne's big at this point. You know, The Matrix. And some of those. And then maybe they thought, because they had definitely done Doug Jones's dialogue. So if you let me read from the podcast.
Yeah.
All right.
He mentions the dubbing was a bit of a sore spot for me. I love Lawrence Fishburne. He's a brilliant actor. His voice was lovely, but I think mine was too. You know, when you're an actor, I don't think any actor wants to see half their performance removed or replaced. I didn't want to see my voice go either. I was playing the part on set as any other actor would with my co-stars. In post-production, I came in and laid down all my dialogue and ADR voice looping sessions to clean it up. We did 2 runs. I did one where I spoke in my superhero voice, and then I did another run of the same dialogue with a whisper. So we ran the 2 together. It was goose-bumpingly good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you and the public did not get to hear that. So he was supposed to, his voice was supposed to be in the film, and they even recorded him twice in ADR to do a creepy effect.
This is something we didn't really talk about when we talked about the comics. Silver Surfer is this really tragic, haunted, sad character who wanders the spaceways, lamenting his lost humanity, etc. And I can just imagine how perfect Doug Jones is, how more fitting it would have been for the Silver Surfer in this movie than Lawrence Fishburne, who's fine. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne is fine, but he's got more, Lawrence Fishburne is more like gravitas versus a character that is haunted by the humanity he has sacrificed to save his own planet.
Yeah, I agree. I think Doug Jones would have been better. And it's just not fair to Doug Jones.
Yeah.
That Tim's revelation that Fishburne was supposed to voice Galactus makes sense, because why would you go to the trouble of recording Doug Jones 3 times, really?
Yeah.
Only to bump him.
Yeah, it was because they had a bigger name who now didn't have any dialogue. Yeah. So moving.
They still needed Fishburne to be in the movie, so we'll just have him voice. So Doug Jones, this and Abe Sapien in Hellboy. Bitter experiences for him, so now he's got that clause. You can't dub him over.
Yeah, so take this with a grain of salt, because I didn't check it out, but in one of the trivia notes on IMDb, it says that you can hear Jones's voice briefly in the first trailer for the movie.
Huh, okay.
Oh,
So we
okay.
need to check YouTube for that.
Yeah.
Maybe it can be the subject of another letter from Tim next time.
Yeah.
To my own podcast. I've since verified this. Here are 2 clips. The first is from the film itself with Fishburne's voice. The second, Jones's voice in the trailer.
All that you know is at an end.
All that you know is at an end.
So we learned that the surfer is randomly affecting matter. This is what Reed tells us, as Jordan mentioned earlier. Johnny's power has been sapped out of him. It seems like.
Well, I thought he just went out because he was outside the atmosphere. Like his power needs oxygen.
Yeah. So, but now we
what's
get this
happened
thing.
is the surfer's like a leaky nuclear reactor, right? He's just spraying cosmic radiation everywhere. And because I suppose, and Reed actually mentions that this is the same power that gave them, so it's the same as the cloud.
Cosmic rays or something, cosmic energy.
Which I don't think is the thing from the comics. I don't think it's the same power in the comics.
The power cosmic and cosmic rays are 2 completely different things in the comics.
They just both have the same word cosmic in them.
Yeah.
Of course. It's just like the word quantum, as you pointed out. So
there's a worse word coming up in this movie we'll talk about.
Right. But because the power source is broadly similar, the leaky reactor that is the Silver Surfer has affected Johnny in such a way that if you touch him, he's in flux. If one of the other members of the Fantastic Four touches him, they swap powers.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
So there's quite a funny scene where the Thing. So first of all, I think what happens? Johnny touches
Sue.
Is it Sue?
Yeah, Sue touches him because Johnny, like, he's been feeling kind of dizzy, right? And he's sitting on top of the building, and then he falls off, and Sue runs out to make sure he's okay. And when she touches him, they swap powers, and now she's suddenly on fire. She's freaking out. And then, of course, because she's the best-looking woman in the movie, it burns all her clothes off.
Yeah. Tiresome.
Of course.
She even says, "Why does this keep happening to me?" It's because
I was disgusted.
Who wants to see Jessica Alba naked? I sure don't.
Yeah, Johnny goes invisible. Yes.
Yeah. And, they figure out what's happening, and then the Thing says, "I'm going to test this," and he becomes Michael Chiklis again.
Yeah.
On fire, so not wearing one of the unstable molecule outfits.
That's right.
And then Johnny has become the Thing. So they've spent however many hours putting Chris Evans into the Thing makeup for this 20-second scene.
Oh, by the way, I should mention, I think both Wikipedia and IMDb mentioned this, that I guess the Thing prosthetics were remodeled for this movie so they'd be easier to get out of.
Okay. That's true. I have a quote here. I can't remember what website I got this off, but they improved, as you pointed out, they improved the suit. So it took, I think, 3 hours to get him in and about an hour and a half to get him out in the first film. But they fixed it so that they could streamline it to get him in 90 minutes.
Okay.
Far less time. Also, they altered the suit somewhat to make it look, they added, quote, more rock appliances and articulation to add to its believability as a rock creature, end quote. Also, the Thing's headpiece now features a larger brow.
Right.
Something requested by die-hard Fantastic Four fans.
Sure.
They don't go on to say whether or not that fan was called Kumar.
Yeah. Okay, so what happens next year? So Reed is planning to split up the team. This is the big emotional crisis of the movie. Reed's like, let's retire.
Well, Sue, right? Sue and Reed discuss.
To Sue,
Sue's upset because
when
the
this
wedding
is over,
was
maybe we leave the team and go off and be a normal family and have kids.
Yeah.
You can't even get married and be a member of the team. You know, what hope do we have to have kids? She sort of basically says. And then Reed's like, well, okay, this is clearly important to you, so maybe we'll just leave the Baxter building. And she's like, what about Johnny, what about Ben? And he's like, well, they'll just deal with it. And Johnny can hear it.
And we'll tell them later, but then Johnny overhears.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so, of course, he tells Ben, and then they're both PO'd. Yeah. And it comes up at the worst time when they're in the chopper.
Like an hour later.
Yeah, it's actually a funny bit, actually.
With the army going off to...
Well, they always pick up.
That bit was a bit funny because the army guys are like, what's the matter with you people?
When he surfaces, you gotta move the fight away from the crowd.
No, he's too fast to be contained. When I see Silver, I'm hitting him.
Wait, you can't do that. We've got to stick to the plan and work as a team.
Oh, so we're a team now. That's news to me.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
Look, we were gonna tell you guys...
When were you gonna tell us? When you moved our stuff out of the Baxter building?
Johnny, this really isn't a good time.
Kid's got a point, Reed. You should have told us.
All right, that's enough. We'll talk about this later. What the hell is wrong with you people?
It's actually the Fantastic Four family moment. I find a lot in this movie, the jokes are really flat and boring. But that was one moment where I felt like when they were trying to get that family internal squabbles dynamic going, and it actually kind of worked for a second because there was an outsider looking at them.
I liked that. Yeah. Although it was a little annoying that it seemed like it was the same day that Johnny found out. Sure. So I mean, it's a little early to be getting cranky about it. Fine, it's fine. And meanwhile, Doom is tracking the Silver Surfer as well.
Yes. We
get a scene of Julian McMahon in like horrible burned makeup.
Yes.
He's tracking. Why did it? We find out that the Silver Surfer came to the wedding to destroy the tracking equipment because he doesn't want to be tracked.
Yeah.
Why didn't he destroy Doom's tracking equipment? Don't know.
Yeah.
Then Doom has tracked him down, is confronting him when he's making his newest hole.
On a glacier in Greenland, yeah.
Right. And says, can you understand me? The Silver Surfer nods. He says, we should team up. With our powers combined, nothing can stop us. And of course, the Silver Surfer couldn't care less about that, so he just moves away.
Yeah.
Doom shoots him with his vague electric powers. The Silver Surfer then shoots Doom with his vague cosmic powers.
And Surfer says, all that you know is at an end.
Right.
But the zap from the Surfer heals Victor's burns from the first movie.
Very random. Very random. Not just the burns, like his metal skin, I guess, or maybe he still has that.
It doesn't make any sense. I've written in my notes, looks like the film found a way to save on makeup. Because we know that, to give the film a little credit, we know that interacting with the Surfer affects you if you've been exposed to the cosmic radiation, because that happened to Johnny. But why does it have the specific effect of healing his messed up skin and restoring him to regular Julian McMahon body? Again, nothing about the Surfer is properly defined.
Okay. The other thing I want to mention about this scene goes back to Julian McMahon's boringness, is his very neutral American accent just is not right for this character. And it really struck me this time because he was in Latveria. We got these shots of this foreign European nation. He should have some kind of interesting voice.
Or at least, like Timothy Dalton in The Rocketeer, have his American accent be something he puts on when he's interacting with people in America. But when he's at home, he's talking in some kind of crazy Eastern European accent.
Yes, or he needs something more booming or threatening, or his voice is just not right for this.
You're right. I actually really found that too, and I'd forgotten about it till you brought it up. When he's in his cloak on the glacier, he should have come out with something growling and frightening, but he just
sounds like a guy.
Hello, Silver Surfer.
Yes.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
All right, so they by studying the holes, they're able to figure out where the next one's going to be.
They also study other planets, and they're like, all those other planets were destroyed 8 days after the Silver Surfer got there.
Eight human days. Eight solar revolutions.
How do they get these calculations?
Why do all the planets have names? We don't. It's really hard to see planets in other systems. almost no exoplanets have names.
Yeah, but Reed's got super equipment, and he's named like all
but
these
he's not
planets.
sharing with anybody.
Yeah,
he's named them himself, and he's talking to Sue like she should know. Oh no, it's Johnny, isn't it? He's talking to Johnny. Remember the names that I gave all these planets that only I can detect?
Yeah.
All right, so
finally, 40 minutes into the movie, we've got a countdown timer. We've got 8 days to save the Earth.
Yeah.
Now they fly to London, where the next hole is opening up, as we pointed out.
By the way, I was noticing, there were all these captions when they went to a new location, but for London there was no caption. They just went to figure it out from the scenery.
I missed that.
Yeah,
you just said figure it out from the London.
I was watching. Oh, is this London? I guess this is London. London, right? It never shows up.
Yeah. Until I saw Big Ben, I was like, "Oh, they're in New York." No,
it's funny. That is funny.
So they have a big fight, and the big London Eye, the Ferris wheel falls over. The Fantastic Four have to protect it, but their powers are swapping.
Yeah, well, Reed wraps his arms all around it, trying to hold it up, and then Johnny takes off after the surfer and accidentally touches Reed, and so suddenly Reed has flame powers and Johnny has stretch powers.
Except Johnny doesn't know how to use the stretch powers, yet Reed knows how to use the flame powers.
Yeah, because he then fixes the London Eye. Yeah.
Yep. He fixes it with
he's a scientist, so he's a scientist, so he knows how to use all the powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, they have slightly redesigned suits. Not that that's that important, but they're like dark on the legs.
Johnny's wearing a one that has this branding on it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Kind of funny.
Yeah.
Incidentally, the U.S. military doesn't have jurisdiction in London.
No, I didn't wonder why the British authorities weren't taking care of this.
Just fly in
a helicopter. Where'd this helicopter come from?
Yeah, did it fly from the States?
From New York?
Hilarious.
So the U.S. Army is like, well, we're bringing in Dr. Doom to help.
Yeah.
And of course,
because the FF goofed it up, so I'm going to bring in somebody else, and of all people, it's Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You kind of hope it would be like the Avengers or something. But
well, it's like you said earlier, Kumar. The people don't know anything about. They don't know anything about Doom.
Yeah.
The conflict with Doom was interpersonal conflict. The U.S. Army just thinks he's just a private citizen, right? They don't care.
Right.
And he's got the data.
And I guess Doom has contacted them, right? That's how they know. They didn't just pick his name out of a hat.
And Captain Holt hates Reed Richards as well because he testified against him before Congress.
Hmm.
They don't get on. So I don't have a problem with this. But I can where we're supposed to be horrified. And Reed's warning Captain Holt, you can't work with Doom. This is madness. Ben Grimm's like, you're not going to tell me you're not going to do this, Reed. Everyone thinks it's a terrible idea, but Reed agrees.
And the general doesn't say, "Oh, I guess you're not a good match here." That doesn't matter to him at all. That Ben sees Victor and wants to punch him.
Yeah, and certainly Julian McMahon's hair here I found really.
Yeah, I'm looking at this screenshot now.
Why is his hair like this?
I don't know.
He had normal hair in the first film.
Yeah,
and now it's really weird.
He's got a weird haircut for sure. Okay, Reed comes up with the solution to beat the Silver Surfer. He's gonna create a tachyon pulse.
He has to be separated from his board.
Yes.
It turns out that Doom filmed the confrontation he had with the Surfer, and they noticed that the power comes up from the board.
Yeah.
Lucky it visibly came up from the board and didn't invisibly go up through his legs or something. So if you can, and from this they conclude, well, with 100% certainty that if you separate the Surfer from the board, he becomes depowered. That is absolutely not clear.
Yeah.
You're dealing with something that you've never seen or experienced before. You cannot be making that kind of conclusion based on 3 frames of video. Whatever.
Yeah. Oh, can I talk about tachyons for a second?
Yes.
I just want to read a quote from a book called Warped Passages by Lisa Randall. This is a physics book about higher numbered dimensions.
Great.
And she says, this is a bit long, but sorry, I got to read it. The first problem with the original version of string theory was that it contained a tachyon. people initially thought of tachyons as particles traveling faster than the speed of light. The term comes from the Greek tachos, meaning speed. But we now know that a tachyon indicates an instability in a theory that contains it. Regrettably for science fiction fans, tachyons are not real physical particles that appear in nature. If your theory seems to contain a tachyon, you are analyzing it incorrectly. So it means there's a miscalculation. It's not a real thing. But we have tachyon beams and stuff in all sorts of science fiction. Now we have tachyon
Star
pulse.
Trek.
This is the thing with, like quantum, is just thrown in there to mean something. It means absolutely
it's just a place filler word. I kind of take exception to that quote because she says for problems of science fiction, problem for people that enjoy science fiction, it's called science fiction.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, there are all kinds of things that only exist in science fiction. But that's why
we're
it's
moving
fiction.
away from the important thing.
So Doom is supposed to be helping with this tachyon pulse emitter, which he's not doing. He's working on some secret project.
He doesn't do anything. Once he's provided the video, the general should have kicked his ass out. He's a civilian anyway. The general already hates working with civilians. Why would you keep Doom around for a second longer than it takes you to watch his video footage? Because he doesn't help whatsoever. In fact, he leaves. And Reed even says, I'm doing this on my own now because Doom has gone AWOL.
Yeah.
So he even goes AWOL before they've even finished building the tachyon emitter.
Right.
So we're getting distracted from the real issue, which is Chris Evans in a towel.
Yeah. Yeah.
When he... this is in the... this is here, right?
Yeah, it's around this... Yeah. Right after Sue discovers that Doom is being sneaky in the back room building something.
Working on his own tachyon emitter. Then we get a scene where Chris Evans is in the shower and Captain Franklin has been waiting for him to come out, I think. Or she just was
Frankie Ray,
Frankie Ray. And he comes out in a towel and he's just amazingly jacked.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, looks amazing. In fact, even in his suit, there's some shots where, I was envious of his juicy butt. I was like, I can't sit down for more than 20 minutes. It's so painful for me to sit down. I was like, this guy's butt is so amazing and thick.
Must be comfortable to sit on all day long. But he even has a bit where
I've never seen anything like it.
Amazing. He even has a bit where he's got out of the shower and he talks to Frankie. I forget what the exact line is, but he uses his Human Torch powers to evaporate all the water on him from the shower. And so he steams. He literally steams.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So now they know where the next appearance of the Surf is going to be because they've calculated them numerically. I think the film uses the word numerical sequence.
Right.
Like what other kind of sequence is there? And then they go
alphabetical.
to the yeah, good point. And,
Australia, Canada, Denmark,
rub it in. So they go to the north of British Columbia, also known as the Black Forest.
Black Forest is in Germany, isn't it?
Yes, of course it is. But because they filmed this in Vancouver,
where they filmed
British Columbia is standing in for.
Right. Well, I figured it wasn't actually Germany, but the script says they're in the Black Forest. Yeah, in Germany.
Correct. In Germany. So then we have the confrontation where Reed Richards delivers the lines that have been lifted entirely from Warren Ellis's Ultimate Extinction.
Yeah.
The quarterback line.
Mm-hmm. And he scolds General Hager for not respecting them. Yep. Because Hager has originally just said, Reed, you're just supposed to turn on the sensor and then let us do our work. And I was thinking, well, if that was the case, why is the rest of the Fantastic Four even there?
Yeah.
Because if the Army didn't want them to do anything, I mean, you would think this conversation would have happened before they left home.
Before they got there, yeah.
At home, the general says, just Reed, you come so you can turn on the device, and the rest of you, I don't want you around. But also, instead, he waits till they get to Germany.
And the Four is setting up the devices, too. Couldn't this have been done by...
Right, yeah, all four of them
soldiers
needed to deploy the devices. But yeah, it doesn't look that complicated. It's just carrying it out and setting it someplace.
You just drop something in the lid of it.
Putting something in it, yeah.
Well, they're in the Black Forest. They set up their tech.
It's a Fantastic Four movie. It's not an Army movie. So
that's right.
They all have to be there.
Yep.
Of course.
This podcast is part of the Deconstructing Comics Network, where we're grateful to our supporters on Patreon. Patrons get exclusive extra content. Pledge $2 a month or more and get Batman 66 podcast Bat Bits and occasional trivia videos. Most recently, we presented trivia about 90125, the 1983 album from Yes. Coming up, we'll discuss early drafts of the script for The Bookworm Turns. At $4 a month, you also get our new monthly show, Silver Age Batman, where I'm moving through the book Batman in the 50s issue by issue, with a rotating second chair of Paul, Emmett, Patrick, or Kumar. Follow our Patreon for free, and you can hear the first 2 episodes of Silver Age Batman. Check it out at patreon.com/deconcomics, and thanks for your support.
Hey, I'm Jen.
And I'm Sean. We're here to tell you about our podcast, Worst Collection Ever.
And this is the show where we tell you about the worst comic book collection in existence. And it just happens to belong to us.
We have some of the worst comics from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. They're bad. They're not worth anything.
No good.
Why do we own them? I own a number of issues of Terror Inc. and Guy Gardner.
Basically, we go around to local comic book stores and we buy everything we can out of dollar boxes.
We tell you about the weird stuff in them. We tell you about stuff that's related to them. We go into tangents. And we're very uninformed, so...
Oh my god, totally. But totally check out our podcast because you'll hear us just talk and joke about Marvel books and DC books from God only knows when.
That's right. It's our show, Worst Collection Ever, every Tuesday on iTunes, Stitcher, anywhere you get your podcasts. Download, rate, subscribe, tell a friend.
It'll be good and terrible, but good.
Well, now we have a scene where the Silver Surfer interacts with Sue.
Yep, he shows up. She hasn't finished setting up her pulse emitter yet. He can just pass through her force field.
Yep.
He warns her that he has no choice in this matter, and the Destroyer is coming.
Destroyer's coming, but he's not
the Destroyer.
He's not the Destroyer, yeah.
He protects her pointlessly because she's going to die in 8 days. But Captain Hulk
he says why later. She reminds him of Shah LaBeouf. He doesn't name Shah LaBeouf in the movie. But
his ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why he unconsciously does it. The Captain Holt's got impatient and he started shooting rockets at the Surfer.
Yeah, that's just like the military in every movie that's not a military movie.
Fire! Shoot it down! Yeah, pointlessly because they're trying to trap him to set off the tachyon. So he might leave if you shoot at him? This is crazy.
Yeah.
Anyway, it happens so we can have some action.
Yeah.
Silver Surfer's flying, absorbs rockets with the board, which looks kind of cool.
Yeah, but it's another new power.
Yeah, good point.
And in fact, in one scene, it's just the board and he emerges out of it completely.
Yeah, he can go into the board.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a pocket dimension in the board? Where does he go?
Yeah, he wasn't going through the board like from one side to the other like he did earlier. He's actually just like
does he
melts
out
of it. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a good point, Kumar.
Yeah. But yeah, so they capture him, they take him back to base. The army's like
Okay, Kumar. Okay, point here.
Yeah.
They take him to a base in Siberia.
Yeah. Okay.
Siberia is in Russia.
Yeah.
The U.S. Army does not have any bases in Siberia.
They will by next year.
Correction.
Tim,
No. Serbia, not Siberia. It was Serbia. That was what the footnote said.
Oh, did I misread it?
Okay.
Actually, I misread it. We'll come back to this. Yeah. Now I don't know if we have bases in Serbia either, but yeah, I initially was thinking Siberia also, but then no, wait, Serbia as I was writing it down. So it's a little more believable. What part of the former Yugoslavia, I think, right?
That's cut. That's completely cut me off at the knees because my next point was that the U.S. Army already has a base in the Black Forest. In Stuttgart, quite nearby.
Okay. Well, yeah.
They didn't need to go to Siberia or Serbia.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the Fantastic Four are isolated in itself, very much like the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie when they are captured by Dr. Doom and put And they have to use their powers to kind of sneak out, very much like in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah.
By the way, according to Wikipedia, at least currently, there aren't any U.S. bases in Serbia.
Oh, okay.
Damn it! Can we roll back and I can do that again? But just
no, but you said there's
fine.
none in Serbia or Siberia. Is that what you're saying, Tim?
Yes.
Okay.
No. So, but there are US bases in Germany still. There's about 40, I think.
Okay. Okay, so the Fantastic Four have to sneak out to find out what's going on with the Silver Surfer. Sue sneaks in to talk to him. Now we get the belly cam.
Yeah.
Where he projects a video onto his stomach, showing his world being destroyed. He doesn't explain that he used to be humanoid that got turned into the Surfer or anything like that.
He also mentions that he serves Galactus.
Yes.
Galactus doesn't seem to be sentient in this.
No.
So how do you serve something that's just a big dumb cloud?
Oh, that's a good question. How does he get instructions from? He speaks to Galactus in English.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we find out that's redundant even because it's the board that attracts Galactus, we find out.
Oh, that's right.
So he doesn't even need to speak to
that's another fuzzy thing.
Also, Galactus's pronouns are he and it, interchangeably used by the Silver Surfer.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
I don't know why you would ever
in the
refer
same
to a cloud as a
scene.
he.
In the same
That's a good
scene,
point.
he calls
In
it
the same
it
scene,
and
yeah.
he.
It is known by many names. My people called it Galactus, the devourer of worlds. It must feed on energy to survive. Take joy in the last few hours you have left, for he is nearly here.
You call him it and he. I don't know why you'd ever call a cloud a he unless it was left over from an earlier draft of the script and we were going to have humanoid Galactus or something like that.
Well, if it had Lawrence Fishburne's voice, I guess it would have been a he for sure.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Because we know it had consciousness. But yeah, without a voice, we don't know how much consciousness there is.
Yes. Okay, so she's trying to convince him to... She's trying to convince the Surfer to defy Galactus. He needs his board, he says, because his energy is connected to it. Galactus is coming up in outer space. It's just a cloud, as far as we can tell. As a first-time viewer, you're hoping it's going to turn to a big guy with a pink helmet.
Well, and did you notice, as we see him passing by Saturn, he casts a shadow on Saturn that looks kind of like the Galactus headpiece.
Yeah.
So I wondered if that was meant to be an Easter egg for the comics readers.
I guess. Yeah. Oh, you're right.
Tim, I'm sorry to do this to you, but I have to interrupt.
Okay.
You're not the only person that can fact check in real time. I just opened the movie and went to the scene. It's Siberia.
Is it? Okay.
Yes.
Well.
Jakutsk in Siberia.
Okay.
I could have sworn it was Serbia. Okay, I'm going to take a look here myself.
Let's pause for a moment then. The battle of the fact checks.
Oh yeah, it does. Okay, it does say Siberia. Sorry.
That's quite all right. Damn it, I had my whole speech.
Yeah,
man.
Yakutsk, Siberia. Yeah. Well, you definitely wouldn't expect there to be a U.S. base there. Well, maybe it's not a U.S. base. They've got Russia cooperating in the war on terror. Speaking of which, apparently Silver Surfer gets tortured here, and I'm thinking this is during George W. Bush. That's ripped from the headlines in 2007.
We even get a bit where the torturer says, this is against human rights. Luckily, you're not human.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sleazy torturer doesn't get his comeuppance unusually. He just vanishes from the film.
Yeah.
Normally, the torturer would get some kind of payback.
He was familiar, though.
He hasn't been in any other comic book movies, as far as I can tell.
All right. Okay, so Doom steals the board. He
That was his plan all along?
Yeah, he freezes all the army guys and kills them. And he puts on his robe and he puts on his mask again. I don't know why.
Well, because it's always easier to surfboard when you got a metal mask on.
Okay. Right.
I think it's probably just for the comics fans. Like, look, it's Doctor Doom.
Of course it is. But he went to the trouble of having this thing burned off his face by a minion earlier in the movie.
Within the logic of the internal logic of the movie, like, why on earth should he put the mask on now?
Why is he wearing the robe? What does he need this robe for?
And also, he's got a kind of armor, like a cuirass, that he's put on. Where was that?
Yeah.
Was it in that duffel bag? I guess it was. Also, what's his plan? The Earth is going to be destroyed in hours?
Yeah.
I guess he's just going out on a high?
Yes. What is
If
Doom
you gotta die,
ever
you might as well
planning?
die on a surfboard.
Question of all 3 movies so far. What's the end game here?
What is ever his plan?
Yeah.
He just wants to hang 10.
He takes off. Yeah, that's it.
Well, I have to say,
Catch a wave.
in those comics, when you see Doom on the Silver Surfer's board, it is awesome, and it was kind of a thrill. Yeah. It's like the teaming up. It's like when Brainiac and Lex Luthor team up. It's like the 2 worst guys getting together, almost. Do you know what I mean?
I was reminded of when the villain puts on the mask in The Mask.
Yeah.
With Jim Carrey. Like, he should not. He's the last person you want to have this power.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, he doesn't do anything with it. It's like Tim said, he just hangs 10.
Yes.
He just sort of zooms around the Earth and they have to chase him.
Well, and you forgot to mention he killed the general.
Yeah.
It's just after he got the power, he zaps the general with his new power.
What's he going to do? How is he going to rob banks, or what's the plan? We don't know, because we never seen
the Earth is going to explode in hours. It's lame. It should have been cool, but it's lame. He should have teamed up with Galactus or something. I don't know. He should have been his new herald. I don't know. So Don Payne, I don't know what he was thinking. So they have to chase him because the board is the beacon.
Yes.
So Reed calls the Fantastic Car, which was under the tarp earlier.
Yeah.
And they take off after him and they confront him over China. They mention that they're in southeastern China.
Okay.
Then they're suddenly over the Great Wall. I don't need to tell 2 gentlemen of the world as yourselves that the Great Wall is not southeastern China.
I was a little puzzled about that because if they're in southeast China and then they're at the wall, then when they crashed, I thought, is this Beijing? No,
Shanghai.
That's Shanghai. It's
which is
got the tower
closer to the wall than southeast China, but it's still quite a way away.
I think they're moving very, very fast.
I guess.
Yes, we'll give it. Okay, yeah, whatever. Yeah, it's fine.
I assumed they were traveling at huge speeds.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay. But the effects in this chase are terrible. They look like they're rear projection. They just look like actors, and they projected some clouds behind them or something. They're supposed to be flying around. It looks really bad.
Yeah, they're in the Fantastic Car. We forgot to mention, they're in the Fantastic Car now, and at this point, they separate the pieces.
Yeah.
As we comics fans knew was going to happen.
Yeah, but they can't take out Doom. Even the 4 of them together can't.
Yeah.
They need to become the whole that is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yes.
So they get the idea that they're going to they're going to turn Johnny into the Super Skrull.
Yeah.
Or Johnny has the idea himself, because he's got that
right.
power.
Because he's a bit more selfless now. He's
how does
reaching.
This is okay. So I think this is what you were hinting at earlier. How does this
it
work?
is. When they touch one another, they exchange powers. It's made very clear that that's what happens. Then at this point, when they need this to happen, they can just dump all their powers in Johnny, and he keeps them.
Yeah, and they
including
don't get
his original powers,
the
fire powers.
Yeah. He should have given them, or one of them, fire powers. Well, I don't know.
Well, they should have all got 1/3 of his powers.
They didn't establish how this could happen earlier.
No, they didn't.
No, yeah, it didn't really make sense, but it was cool, so we'll go with that.
Yeah, also this set that's supposed to be in China looks really cheap. It looks like
well,
it's just like in a lot somewhere.
It is in a studio lot. It's not outdoors.
Yes, that's right. Johnny, as the Super Skrull, kicks the shit out of Doom.
Yeah.
And breaks his tachyon emitter and separates him from the board. But Galactus is here.
Oh, yeah.
And
killed, by the way.
I forgot about that.
Doom shoots and throws a spear at her, made out of surfer board, I think.
Yeah, cosmic power.
Yes.
Yes. It evaporates
goes
after
through
it.
her as she's trying to shield the surfer with her force bubble, but it goes through the force bubble because it's cosmic power. And
the surfer has agreed to
her.
help them stop, I think, Galactus at this point.
Yeah.
But they need the board back.
Yeah.
So they've got the board back. Sue's dead. The surfer heals her. Again, what's his powers? Healing powers?
ET power. But you know what I knew was going to happen?
Yep.
I saw it coming. I was like, Silver Surfer's going to bring her back to life.
Yeah, I saw it.
She wasn't going to stay dead.
I mean, yeah, she's not. This is temporary. So yeah, how else is she going to be brought back to life? Yeah,
that's why I didn't even mention it. I didn't even think it was worth mentioning. Anyway,
Surfer has whatever power you need.
Yes,
he's a bit like Superman in that respect. So he now the Silver Surfer flies up into Galactus and destroys Galactus and himself.
Exactly.
Apparently,
how?
A power that he had all along.
Yes.
Yeah, just blow himself up real good and blow up Galactus too.
This aside from the crappy.
Well, he was never convinced to. It's like in the comic, he was never convinced to defy Galactus before, but we don't get.
So he was perfectly content to murder trillions. Until he made friends with someone who reminded him of his ex-girlfriend.
Unlike the comics, there's no background where he says, I've never been on a planet. Galactus has never taken a planet with life before. I've never been confronted by, what is this thing, beauty? Now I understand what it is, which is a line he says in the Jack Kirby comics.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have any of that where he's transformed by the experience of being on Earth.
Yes.
And being like, I can't do this.
Well,
it's because he only. Sorry, go. Yep.
Because earlier Sue tells him you do have a choice. You don't have to serve Galactus. And so later, when he heals Sue, he says to Reed, tell her that she was right. I do have a choice.
But he could have killed Galactus. I found this. This is the only other thing I remember about the film, other than the dancing scene.
But yeah, I mean, if he was doing this against his will, he could have done this at any time.
He would rather murder trillions. He could have killed. He needed to be powered up in some way. There needed to be a team up. He shouldn't have had the ability to kill Galactus alone.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, this is the big other point. The Fantastic Four are not the heroes of this movie at the end.
Right.
They couldn't have stopped Galactus. Silver Surfer had to stop Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that happened was Sue vaguely convinced the Surfer, you have a choice.
But I still like, even worse though, is the idea that the Surfer all along was Galactus's equal and could have destroyed him at any time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So for however long, who knows? 50,000, who knows? Yeah. He's been murdering trillions, and he could have stopped it at any time by killing. He valued his own life above the life of.
Yeah, and what was the
awful ending?
Yeah. Yes. Especially since we don't know the origin of the Silver Surfer. If he was never a human being, was always this creature, this silver creature, and Galactus showed up at his planet, he could have just blown him up at that time.
Yeah, maybe.
Instead of becoming his herald for thousands of years.
They never say that Galactus gave him that power, do they?
That's right.
You're right.
They don't say that in this movie.
Oh, that's even worse.
If he had been a human being and he couldn't stop Galactus except by becoming his herald, that's fine. But in this case, he could have defended his planet in the first place.
But he's been killing planets. We know he's been killing planets every 8 days for God knows how long.
Well, not every 8 days. After Surfer arrives, you've got 8 days.
Oh, right.
Until the planet
Okay. But he's been killing planets. Forever. And the idea that he always had the capability of stopping Galactus.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't do it until he met someone that reminded him of his ex-girlfriend. Yeah. That's not a heroic story.
Yeah, I mean, even if Galactus did give him the power, I mean, he could have then said, well, Galactus, forget it. I'm not going to serve you because I can blow you up.
Yeah, You gave me this power to blow you up, dumbass. I'm going to blow you up now and keep my world safe, and also every other world in the universe.
Okay.
Oh, no.
Also, how do we feel about the gas cloud? We haven't mentioned that Galactus is not a big dude in a kilt. He's a gas cloud.
Well, my thought was, I think in the comics they've said at some point that, like, in different planets might perceive him in different ways.
Oh.
So I think you can accept him not looking like a Jack Kirby drawing.
But but he's not. He's as I said, he seems non-sentient.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah, no, that's I think that's a copyright issue,
like a natural phenomenon, and that's really super lame. Well, I think here he's based. So to return to Ultimate Extinction by Warren Ellis, in Ultimate Extinction, Galactus is called Galactus, 3 separate words.
Okay.
And instead of being a guy, it's kind of like a Mass Effect deal. It's a fleet of really grumpy artificial intelligences that despise all biological life. They despise biological life so much that they can't bear to exist in the same universe as them. Okay. And they essentially go from inhabited world to inhabited world, melt them with a deliberately engineered virus, and then destroy the planet they were on because they hate biologicals that much.
Okay.
And one of the ways in which they kind of have to deal with the Galactus is that Professor X kind of has to contact it psychically.
Okay.
He contacts it psychically, and they're so horrified at this contact because they hate organics that it actually stops them for a little while as they frantically dust themselves off and try and get off the human germs.
Cooties.
Yeah. They end up destroying it. I think Reed in the end builds some sort of universe-destroying gun to get rid of it.
Okay.
And they only kill part of it and just kind of drive it off and convince it to go somewhere else.
Okay.
And in very Ultimate Marvel, killing Galactus is considered way less important than the fact than that Reed has now designed a universe-killing gun and that Nick Fury might get it.
Right.
And that's very Ultimate Marvel, like, humans are the baddies.
Right.
Anyway, so I think that Cloud Galactus is kind of drawing on Ultimate Marvel's version of Galactus as kind of like a big evil, because it's kind of like a cloud, but it's a cloud of it's a swarm of
right.
It's not nanites, but a swarm of evil von Neumann machines, essentially.
Drones? Are they kind of like drones?
Yeah, it's like drones. They are like drones. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, when Silver Surfer flew up into the cloud, Johnny tried to follow him.
Yeah.
And just had to
let go. He gives him a push. He gives him a boost.
Weird moment, like as if they're really desperate to get the FF involved, but this really is too big for them to deal with. It's too much for them.
But apparently touching the board reverses the effect of the previous time, and so now Johnny doesn't have that power switching.
Oh, he's back to normal
power
now.
Anymore.
His molecules have stabilized. He just needed to touch the Surfer again.
Yeah.
Right, Galactus is destroyed, and then the team decide that they're going to stay a team.
Yeah.
Sue and Reed decide that, and then they get married in Japan.
They get married in Japan. Why didn't they get married in China?
People don't like China. People like Japan.
Seems like
and also, everyone at the wedding is no one at the wedding is anyone they know. It's just a random crowd.
Who are all these Japanese
big crowd of Japanese people.
Kimono wearing extras. Well, they might extras wearing kimonos.
And Frankie Ray.
Sue's wearing a kimono, and also Captain Frankie Ray's there. Yeah,
Frankie Ray, and they've flown in Brian Posehn.
I've written in.
Yeah, I was surprised they brought over their minister, but they didn't bring over any of their friends.
They didn't bring any guests. It's terrible. This. I've written Japan fetish wedding. What the fuck?
Weird, stupid ending.
Yeah, and then we already mentioned Johnny burning up the bouquet.
Oh yeah, yes. True.
Yes, and then we get a mid-credits scene of the Silver Surfer's board coming back to life.
Yeah, well, and did you notice as we see Silver Surfer floating around in space, and just as his face passes by us, we see his eye open.
Right.
And then the board goes toward him. So it's like, no, he didn't die is the point of that, I guess.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And they were
he didn't even die? I didn't watch the mid... Are you saying he didn't even die?
No, his eye opens. Yeah, he didn't die.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, he was
he's alive.
I guess he doesn't need oxygen.
They were planning a third movie.
Right.
And they wanted to have Puppet Master in it and some other
allegedly,
stuff. Yeah. But the box office of this movie was a little bit less than the first movie, and so they kind of decided not to.
Also, seems to me like Puppet Master should be 2, Galactus should be 3. Like, that's the wrong way around.
Galactus is just a lame cloud in this, isn't it? He's barely in it. It's
Yeah.
the Silver Surfer. It's Doom and
Yeah,
Silver
yeah.
Surfer.
Yeah. Oh, maybe the Japanese wedding was to bookend the Bay scene in the first. No, that's giving too much credit.
Start in Japan and end in Japan.
Yeah. Okay. Should we have any trivia? Have we lost Jordan?
Sorry, I'm still here. Very professional. I just had to plug my charger in. Yeah, I got trivia. All right, speaking of the box office receipts, so this film had a slightly higher budget than the previous film, probably about a third again as much money was spent on it, somewhere around $120 to $130 million. I don't know if it really, I guess it shows some of the effects are a bit better, especially the surfer. So you can see like a lot of the money went on effects, I think.
Okay, yeah.
But the box office, as Tim mentioned, slightly less. Only $301 million US, which is about $30 million less than the previous film, despite spending about $30 million more. Still a success, still roughly 3 times the budget, but not kind of like a big enough success for them to greenlight that third sequel.
Okay.
So how did it get made? Unfortunately, we haven't got as exciting a story as we have had for our last 2 outings. This time, basically, as soon as they saw that the first film was making money, about a month after it was released, they greenlit the sequel. Okay. I think the cast had actually signed up, optioned at least 3 films.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty clear that it was going to come. So it was shot in Vancouver at Vancouver Film Studios. A lot of the crew that worked on the first film also worked on this one, which also is the same crew that worked on the X-Men movies.
Okay.
The director either noticed or was told that the last film happened entirely in New York, and so decided to bring in the pointless around the world excursions.
Yeah,
that we find.
arbitrarily international Siberia.
Yeah, it's just completely. And so they had a second unit who got some lovely holidays and got to visit all of these locations to shoot the establishing shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the all of the actual kind of like all of the main shooting with the actors and everything took place in Vancouver. The Baxter Building, which was also in the first film, is a real building in downtown Vancouver called the Marineville Building.
Okay.
On the waterfront, apparently. I've already mentioned Nicolas Cage. Weta Digital, so the effects studio, Peter Jackson's effects studio, did the Silver Surfer.
Yeah.
And I think did a pretty good job. That's pretty much it for trivia.
Huh. Okay. Short, like this movie. So let's rate these. Let's rate the Galactus Saga comics. Yay or nay?
Okay.
These are big yay. These are yay for me. Maybe not as godly as the other godly Jack Kirby comics, but this is the beginnings of his real interest in that theme. I rank these pretty high.
This is before his New God stuff.
Oh, way before,
right? Yeah, okay. But you can sort of see the rumblings of it with kilt-wearing outer space deities.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I found myself a bit underwhelmed by the Galactus Trilogy, this original one. But I can see that it's the wellspring from which a mighty ocean sprang. On the other hand, I really like the wedding issues.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
I enjoyed them a lot.
Tim, how are you going to lay it on these?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't read the wedding annual. Boy, I'm really torn about the Galactus Saga because, I think the only plus I can really give it is that it was so influential.
Yeah,
it's a major point of comics history. But yeah, I mean, putting normal in quotation marks superheroes up against God is maybe not such a good idea.
Yeah. Well, as the movie goes to show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the movie has the same problem or worse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm kind of leaning slightly nay.
Yeah, go for nay. That's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jack.
Well, you've read them all, or almost all of them, so you're the real expert on you can land on nay easily because you've got 1,000 yays on other Jack Kirby comics. Okay, what about this movie? This is an easy nay for me. I liked it less than the first one.
Wow, really?
I mean, the first one had some bits that I liked, some gags. I liked some of the dynamic. I liked the actors. This time I never laughed. I was bored. I was shocked at how prosaic a lot of it was. Really actively disliked this movie.
Yeah, for me it's also a nay. I'm not sure I agree that it's substantially worse than the first film.
Okay.
I mean, it has less novelty.
Yes.
But I feel like it has a more kind of coherent story. I
rated the first one at 2.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, and I ranked this one at 2.
Okay.
So it's only 1.5 star less.
And there's half a star for first exposure. Seeing the characters for the first time, maybe.
Yeah.
I think that in some ways it's an improvement, a tighter story that actually has a kind of 3-act structure instead of the weird thing that first one was, where they hung out in the Baxter building. But also, I think, and better effects, but also big problems with some aspects of the world building. Galactus obviously is completely lame.
Yeah.
And doesn't feel threatening ever. Silver Surfer's powers all over the place.
This is such an underwhelming world apocalypse.
Yeah. It's a bunch of drilling,
when Galactus attacks, you don't see like destruction all over the world. We don't get cut to Germany, cut to Africa. Yeah. We don't see all this destruction happening everywhere. We just get this one street.
Yeah.
Yeah,
in China,
just
one
get some
street.
smoke going into
That's a good point.
The pits.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I remember the first movie, I liked it because I said it kind of scratched the Fantastic Four itch.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like overall I kind of enjoyed this one less. The problems were popping out at me more than they did on the first one. So, yeah, I think I'm going to have to go nay also.
Oh, yeah, it's a nay for me too.
Adaptation.
Adaptation.
In a sense, it has the same problems the comics have.
Yeah, it adapted the same problems. So, yeah, as an adaptation,
these problems successfully.
As an adaptation of a problematic story, it's also problematic. So yeah, I think it's a successful adaptation of a flawed story.
I think that's fair. We're getting some we're getting some specifics that are impressively accurate. Yeah. So Sue is complaining about everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, she sounds like a 60s woman. Stereotypical 60s woman, I'm going to say.
That's not necessarily a good thing, but at least but it is accurate to these
a woman in a Stan Lee comic in the 60s. That's what she sounds like.
Is going to be caring about weddings and not about saving the world.
Yeah.
The surfer looks good. I think that I think you've got the surfer, and he pretty much kind of acts like the surfer mostly, even though his backstory doesn't really make sense. He's this very alien, very lofty kind of creature. Tim Story, the director, said, "We tried to stay as close as possible to the Silver Surfer from the pages of the comic book. Because he's a CGI character, we're able to create him from scratch, meaning I can sculpt him to look exactly like the character. Our Silver Surfer is the surfer we all know and love. I think the fans and everyone who's familiar with this character will appreciate that he's going to be living and breathing exactly how they've always known him to be. Maybe not exactly.
Interesting that they would say that. I wonder what he would say about Galactus. What's his rationale there? Let's make him as unlike the comics as possible.
If this film's called Rise of the Silver Surfer and the Silver Surfer is not in it enough, I understand making Galactus a force of nature and a lesser character and not the focus of the film, because it's not called Fantastic Four versus Galactus or whatever that trilogy is called. Like the Coming of Galactus or something like that. That first issue's called. But the Silver Surfer needed more screen time and he needed to be more menacing.
Yes.
And his face heel turn needed to be more convincing and dramatic. And it's not any of those things. Instead, we're wasting time with Doom. Again, what is his plan? What is he doing?
I'm going to go nay.
For adaptation?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I've just convinced myself.
You've convinced me that it's an A because that the Surfer Galactus relationship is not like it. I think that's the core of the comic. That turn.
Yeah.
And his discovering humanity and all that kind of stuff is the key, and I think that's not in the movie.
It's just that Sue reminds him of an ex.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm gonna vote nay.
Yeah, I think you've convinced me that I convinced myself, so I'm also going to vote.
Tim, we need your vote on this.
Oh yeah, I think I'm sticking to yay for adaptation.
Okay. All right. Good.
Excellent. Do you want to expand on that, or you just have to let it lie?
Well, like I said, it's a flawed successful adaptation of a flawed comic story.
Oh, of course,
it has the same flaws. So.
Yeah,
I like that.
Okay,
I do like that.
It's logical. Okay, the YouTube numbers. So, previous episode on YouTube, our episode. The Comic Book Movie Oblivion episode on Fantastic Four 2005 has 47 views.
This is pretty typical for us.
Yes. Deconstructing Comics, part 1 has 241 and part 2 has 194.
Huh. Okay. So
it's not as bad as the 500 last time, but it's still pretty embarrassing.
When one day, when we've put in as many years as Tim has, we too will have 4 times the audience we have now. Very good.
You can hear Kumar's edit of this conversation, plus many more discussions of comics-related movies in the Comic Book Movie Oblivion podcast. At deconstructingcomics.com, you can connect to us on X, Facebook, YouTube, and Blue Sky, and find links to subscribe to the podcast. You can comment on any episode on our site, drop us a line at mail@deconstructingcomics.com, or talk to us. Click the Leave a Voicemail link on the left sidebar of our site. Are you making a comic? Send it to us and we'll do a Critiquing Comics episode about it. Our theme is by J.B. Anderton. The music backing the promotion of our Patreon is Change by Jazar. I'm working on a writing project that's moving along too slowly. So I'm planning to do more reruns than usual of this podcast over the next few months. There will still be new shows, of course, and I haven't yet published my Patreon discussions with Mulele of the Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield Spider-Man movies. Those will be coming. But next week, we represent my 2009 interview with Jillian Tamaki, in which we discuss her collaboration with her cousin Mariko Tamaki on the graphic novel Skim. Till then, this is Tim, and thanks for listening to Deconstructing Comics.